your English podcast.
Hello, and a massive welcome back to everyone tuning in today. We are so thrilled to have you back with us on your English podcast.
It is so great to be here with you all.
I was thinking about our topic for today's deep dive, and I realized we aren't just talking about language learning mechanics today. We're really talking about something much deeper. We're talking about fear.
Wow, jumping right in with the heavy stuff. But yeah, you are totally right. It is accurate.
It feels accurate, right? Because today we are tackling a monster, like a silent, invisible monster that lives in the throats of millions of language learners all over the world.
You're talking about the freeze.
The freeze, the lockup, that blank stare. It's that specific, really awful sinking feeling. You know exactly the one I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
You're at home, you've got your grammar book spread out on the desk, you've been practicing on your phone app for 6 months. In the safety of your bedroom, you feel like an absolute poet. You're reciting these perfect sentences to the mirror.
You're ready to write a novel in English.
Exactly. You feel so powerful. But then you step out your front door, you walk into a coffee shop, or maybe a tourist stops you on the street to ask for directions. Just a simple question like, hey, where's the train station? And suddenly,
Suddenly, there's just nothing.
nothing. The hard drive is completely wiped clean. The mouth just won't open.
It is the universal nightmare of learning any language.
It really is. And I think it is so important to validate this right now for anyone listening. If you are listening to this right now and nodding your head, you are not alone. But from what I've seen in my own teaching experience, why does this actually happen? Is it just that we forget the words?
Well, no, it's actually a deeply ingrained physiological response. It
Yeah.
isn't just a memory failure or forgetting. It's the fight or flight response kicking in.
Really? Fight or flight?
Yeah. Your brain literally perceives the social pressure of speaking a foreign language as a physical threat.
Wait, so my brain thinks that trying to order a vanilla latte is the exact same thing as running away from a bear?
To your amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain, yes. The stakes feel incredibly high in that moment. You're worried about judgment, about looking foolish, about maybe not understanding the barista's response. So your brain prioritizes survival over vocabulary retrieval. It shuts down the creative and linguistic centers to focus entirely on escaping that specific situation.
That makes so much sense because it really does feel like physical paralysis. You know the words are in there somewhere. They're floating just out of reach, like like fish under a frozen lake. You just can't break the ice to get to them.
That is a beautifully terrifying metaphor. And honestly, that's our mission for this discussion. We're going to hand you the ice pick.
I love that. Unlocking it.
Right. We want to walk through 7 distinct practical steps to help you break that ice. Strategies that I've seen work time and time again for learners at every single level.
Unlocking. That's the key word here. We're going to completely dismantle that fear and break down the wall between knowing English in your head and actually speaking English out loud. So let's unpack this. Where do we even begin? I feel like we need to start by just changing our definition of the goal itself.
Exactly. We absolutely have to redefine what fluency actually means.
Because I think for a lot of people, fluency means sounding like a walking, talking dictionary. It means using really big academic words, complex sentence structures, and just never, ever making a single grammatical mistake.
And I call that the fluency myth. It's a really dangerous myth because it sets the bar so impossibly high that it feels completely unachievable. Real fluency isn't about complexity at all. It's about flow.
Flow over complexity. Okay, I really like that. But can you dig a little deeper into that? What do you mean by flow in a practical sense?
Well, think about the word itself. The word fluent comes from the Latin fluere, which literally means to flow, like a river. It doesn't mean to be incredibly deep or to be complex. It just means the liquid moves forward without any blockage.
So a river can be really shallow, but as long as it's moving fast and not getting stuck, it's flowing.
Precisely. You can have a relatively shallow vocabulary. Maybe you only know the most common 2,000 words in English.
Yeah.
But if you can access those words instantly, connect them logically, and keep the conversation moving forward, you are, by definition, fluent.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If I only use super simple words, won't I sound, well, kind of stupid? Won't I sound like a child? I think that's the big fear for a lot of adult learners. We are smart, capable adults in our native languages, and we hate the idea of sounding like toddlers in English.
That is the fear, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a huge blow to the ego. But if you actually look at how natives speak, the top 2,000 most frequent words cover about 80 to 90% of daily casual conversation.
Really? That much?
Yeah, native speakers highly prize efficiency. We really like short sentences. We love phrasal verbs. We don't walk into a pub and say, I would like to acquire a beverage. We just say, I'm going to get a drink.
That's a great point. If someone walked up to me and said, I desire to purchase a libation, I would honestly think they were an alien or something.
Right, because it creates a weird social barrier. In linguistics, we sometimes call this register mismatch. You're using a highly formal academic register in a super casual setting, and ironically, that signals to everyone that you are a foreigner much more loudly than a simple grammar mistake ever would.
Wow, so by trying to sound smart with these massive vocabulary words, learners are actually making themselves sound less natural.
Yes, you really do not need a massive database of vocabulary to be fluent. You just need to be extremely comfortable and agile with the words you already know. It is infinitely better to know 500 words and be able to use them instantly and flexibly than to know 5,000 words but need 10 seconds of dead silence to retrieve them from your memory.
It's all about the access speed, not the size of the database.
Precisely. And there is a physical aspect to this kind of confidence, too.
Oh, this is interesting. The physicality of speaking.
Yeah. Think about it. When you are unsure of yourself or when a learner is nervous, what physically happens to their voice?
They get quiet. I see it all the time. People start to mumble. They drop their chin. They kind of look at their shoes. They try to make themselves physically smaller so nobody notices them.
Right. And when you mumble, you are non-verbally telling the listener, I have no idea what I'm saying. And ironically, because you're mumbling, they literally can't hear the words, so they lean in and say, what? Or excuse me.
And then the learner totally panics because they think they made a huge grammar mistake.
Exactly. You interpret their, excuse me, as, your English is terrible, when in reality it was just, your volume is too low. I literally could not hear the sound coming from your mouth. It becomes this awful, vicious cycle.
So the trick is to speak loudly and clearly, even if you are only saying 3 basic words like, I like coffee.
Yes. If you mumble it, you sound lost and confused. If you project it, if you look the person right in the eye and speak with a clear, steady voice, you project mastery. Clarity is very often mistaken for fluency.
Fake it till you make it. I love that so much. Okay, so we are completely redefining fluency as flow, simplicity, and physical clarity. But how do we actually get there? Because you can't just wake up and decide to be fluent. It takes actual work.
It definitely takes work. And this brings us to the absolute foundational rule of everything we're going to discuss today. Fluency is a muscle.
A muscle, not a bicycle.
Definitely not a bicycle. You know that old saying, right? That's like riding a bike you never forget.
Yeah, of course.
Well, speaking English is not a bike. If you don't ride it, the tires go flat, the chain rusts, the whole thing falls apart. It is a gym workout. If you want big muscles, you have to lift weights regularly. If you start lifting, the muscles shrink. Atrophy sets in. If you want to speak fluently, you have to engage with the spoken language every single day.
Every single day. That is the commitment you have to make.
Consistency always beats intensity. It is so much better to do 15 minutes of focused practice every day than to cram for 5 hours once a week on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay, so we have the mindset down. Fluency is a muscle. Simplicity is the key. Let's get into the tactical steps. Step 1. And I have to say, looking at this first one, it seems a bit counterintuitive. We want to improve our speaking, but you are basically telling us to shut up.
In a way, yes, I am. Step 1 is the art of listening.
Why listening? If I want to build my bicep, I lift a dumbbell. If I want to speak better, shouldn't I just be speaking?
Because you cannot produce what you haven't consumed. It's the basic input-output principle. A lot of language acquisition theory revolves around this idea that acquisition only happens when you understand messages. Just think about a baby. A baby doesn't come out of the womb debating philosophy.
Thankfully not. That would be completely terrifying.
Right. They go through what we call a silent period. For the first year or two of their life, they are just massive data sponges. They are absorbing the rhythm, the intonation, the specific sounds of their parents. They are quietly building a massive mental map of the language.
That's very true. We don't expect a 1-month-old to give a keynote speech. They are just lying there listening.
Exactly. But most adult learners try to skip the silent period entirely. They try to speak perfectly on day one, and then they get incredibly frustrated when they don't have the mental map to navigate the conversation. You have to fill your brain with the authentic sounds of English so that your subconscious starts to recognize the patterns automatically.
But most of our listeners aren't complete beginners. They aren't babies. They've been studying English for years in school. Surely they've done plenty of listening.
They have done a lot of hearing, but there is a massive fundamental difference between simply hearing English and actively listening to it.
Break that down for us. Is it just about paying closer attention?
It is about what exactly you are paying attention to. Most learners only listen for meaning. They listen just to understand what facts are being communicated, like the cat sat on the mat. Okay, they understand the cat is on the mat. Mission accomplished, they stop listening.
Right, but isn't that the whole goal? Comprehension.
That is the goal for basic communication, sure. But it is not the goal for acquisition. For step 1, to build fluency, we need to learn to listen for form. You need to listen like a musician, not like a fan in the audience.
Oh, I really like that distinction. A musician versus a fan.
Think about it. A fan hears a song on the radio and just enjoys the vibe. A musician hears the exact same song and they notice the bass line, they hear the chord progression, they notice when the tempo shifts slightly.
So I shouldn't just be listening to the story being told. I need to be listening to the actual music of the sentence.
Exactly. You need to ask yourself, where did their pitch go up? Why did they smash those 3 words together so they sound like one word? Why do they say gonna instead of going to in that specific sentence? You need to treat the audio like a specimen in a lab to be dissected, not just background noise.
So that background noise strategy that people love, having an English radio station playing quietly while I vacuum the living room, is that totally useless?
It's not completely useless. It definitely helps with general familiarity with the sounds, but it will not trigger that speaking activation we are looking for. For that, you absolutely need active, focused perception.
So what does a really good practical input routine actually look like?
It means finding sources that genuinely interest you. Podcasts, songs, YouTube vloggers, audiobooks. But here is the crucial tip to stop all that great information from just slipping out of your brain. You need to listen and then immediately try to repeat what you just heard, either mentally in your head or verbally out loud.
Like an immediate echo.
Yes. Or try this drill, which I love. Listen to a dialogue, maybe an interview podcast, exactly like this one we are doing right now. When I ask you a question, pause the audio. Try to answer my question yourself out loud in your own words, then press play and hear how the actual host answered it.
Oh, that is so good. You are actively participating in the conversation, even though it's pre-recorded. It forces your brain to stay in English mode rather than slipping into sleep mode.
Exactly. It keeps you on your toes.
So, step one is relentless, highly active listening. You are filling up the gas tank. Now let's move to step two. Because eventually, no matter how much we listen, we do have to break the silence.
Yes, we do. Step 2 is speak every day. I call it the solo method.
The solo method. I really like this because the absolute biggest excuse I hear from learners, and honestly, I've used this excuse myself when trying to learn a new language, is I don't have anyone to practice with. They say, I live in a small town where nobody speaks English, so I can't practice speaking.
And look, that is a totally valid difficulty. It is hard, but it is absolutely not a valid excuse to stay silent. You do not need a conversation partner to practice the physical act of speaking. In fact, practicing completely alone is sometimes way better for building initial confidence because there is zero judgment.
No one can hear you mess up.
Exactly. You must speak daily, even if you feel like you don't have enough vocabulary yet. You have to get the actual physical muscles in your mouth and jaw moving in new ways.
So what are we doing here? Are we just walking around our apartments shouting random vocabulary words at the walls?
I mean, ideally, yes, but let's give it a bit more structure. My suggestion is to start with the most basic expressions. It truly does not matter if they feel too simple. It only matters that they are spoken aloud. You need to get used to the physical vibration of your own voice speaking English words.
That is a very real thing, isn't it? Sometimes you hear yourself speak a foreign language for the first time in a while and you think, who is that? That doesn't sound like me at all.
It creates a massive cognitive dissonance. Your voice sounds higher pitched, or you speak much slower, or it just feels alien. You need to bridge that gap. One great technique is the mirror method. Just stand in front of your bathroom mirror and talk to yourself. Watch how your mouth moves. Make direct eye contact with your own reflection.
It sounds a little bit crazy, to be honest.
Oh, it is totally crazy. But it is so much better to be a little crazy in the privacy of your own bathroom than to be completely frozen in public when trying to buy a train ticket. It builds comfort with seeing your own face produce English sounds.
Okay, I can definitely see the value in that, but my absolute favorite technique you shared before is what you call the narrator.
Oh yes, the narrator.
Mm-hmm.
This is an absolute game changer for daily practice.
Set the scene for us. How does the narrator work?
Imagine you are the voiceover narrator of your own boring daily documentary. As you go about your normal day, you silently or quietly out loud narrate exactly what you are doing.
Like, I'm walking into the kitchen right now.
Exactly. I am opening the fridge. The light inside is very bright. I'm looking for the milk. Ah, here's the milk. The carton feels cold.
I am pouring the hot coffee. Ideally, I am not spilling the hot coffee all over the counter.
Hopefully not. But look at what this simple exercise actually does. It connects everyday physical actions directly to English vocabulary without any of the social pressure of a real conversation. You are mentally gluing the English word coffee to the actual physical object of the coffee cup in your hand.
And I imagine you are instantly realizing exactly where your vocabulary gaps are. Like if you go to grab a wooden spoon and you suddenly realize you don't know the word for spoon in English, you learn it right then and there because you need it.
Exactly. It
Uh,
makes your learning immediately relevant to your actual real life. You aren't wasting time learning abstract words like photosynthesis from a textbook. You are learning spoon, fork, door handle, keys, the things you actually touch every day.
Now, you also mentioned something a little bit more high tech for the solo method, the video diary.
Yes. Now, this one is for the brave learners out there. Record short video or audio notes on your phone about your day. Just 1 minute. Today I went to work. It was raining heavily. My boss was annoying. I feel tired.
Why record it though? Why not just say it out loud to the room?
Because turning the camera on adds a tiny, manageable bit of pressure. It simulates having an audience. If you can talk directly to a glowing camera lens, which is weirdly intimidating for a lot of people.
It really is. Even for us, sometimes staring at the microphone feels like this giant unblinking ear judging everything we say.
Exactly. If you can conquer that feeling with your phone camera, you can definitely talk to a real person. Plus, it gives you an undeniable record of your progress. Imagine watching your video diary from day one when you finally reach day 100.
That would be incredibly motivating. You would actually be able to see and hear the tangible improvement in your accent and your flow.
It is a huge, huge motivation booster.
I actually want to pause here for a quick second and ask you, the listener. We're talking a lot about talking to yourself. It definitely feels silly at first, but I'm genuinely curious. What about you listening right now? How often do you practice speaking out loud when you are completely alone? Do you narrate your life? If you find these kinds of deep dive tips helpful for your daily routine, please consider subscribing to our channel so you never miss our future discussions. We really love helping you improve.
Yes, please hit that subscribe button.
All right, so let's move on to step 3. We've been talking about speaking alone, which is a safe, controlled environment. But eventually, we have to deal with the absolute inevitable reality of language learning. We are going to mess up.
We are. Step 3 is making friends with your mistakes.
Making friends with them. See, I usually want to sweep my mistakes under the rug. I want to just pretend they never happened and move on as quickly as possible.
We all do. It's what I call the perfectionism trap. We've all been deeply conditioned by the traditional school system, by strict exams, that a mistake is a moral failure. It's a big red mark on your paper. It's a deduction of points. But in the world of natural language acquisition, a mistake is not a failure. A mistake is feedback.
Feedback. That sounds very clinical and safe.
Well, think of it like a heat-seeking guided missile. A guided missile never flies in a perfectly straight, flawless line to its target. It is constantly making micro errors. It flies a little too far left, the system corrects it. It goes a little too far right, it corrects again. The mistake is literally the signal that tells the guidance system exactly where the target is. Without the deviation, you cannot have the correction.
Wow. So if I'm speaking and I say, I go to the store yesterday instead of I went, that isn't a failure. That is just my internal guidance system pinging off the wall.
Exactly. It tells your brain, okay, that rule I internalized about adding ed to make a past tense verb, it doesn't apply to this specific word. If you never confidently said goat out loud, you might never fully solidify the irregularity of the word went in your active memory.
The huge problem is most of us feel like we have to be absolutely perfect before we even open our mouths to speak. We want to completely edit and polish the manuscript before we even print the book.
And that desire for perfection causes severe analysis paralysis. You are standing there so busy running the grammar rules in your head, checking the conjugations, that the actual real-life conversation just moves on without you. You have to be willing to be a messy speaker.
Messy is really hard for high achievers.
It is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But here is the absolute secret that nobody tells you. Native speakers are incredibly messy.
Are we? I mean, I feel like I speak pretty well most of the time.
Alex, I promise you, if I transcribe this exact conversation we were having right now, word for word, including all the ums, the ahs, the times we restart a sentence halfway through, the slight grammar slips, you would be absolutely shocked. Native speech is absolutely full of errors. We just don't hear them because we're focusing entirely on the message.
That is actually incredibly comforting. So, if native speakers do it all day long, why are we so unbelievably hard on ourselves when we are learners?
Exactly. We need to adopt the fake it till you make it approach. Speak boldly. Even if you aren't 100% sure if the verb tense is correct, say it with total conviction. Most of the time, the context of the situation completely carries the meaning. If you say to me, yesterday I go to the store, instead of went, I still understand your story perfectly. The communication was successful.
Right. The data transfer from your brain to mine. Success.
And then after the fact, you can use the self-correction technique. Remember those video recordings we just talked about?
The daily video diaries.
Yes. Go back and listen to them. But don't listen with the intent to criticize and beat yourself up over your pronunciation. Listen to objectively analyze. You will suddenly hear obvious errors in the recording that you completely missed while you were in the act of speaking.
That is so true. When you are in the moment, your brain is working at maximum capacity, just processing the content and keeping the conversation alive. But when you listen back calmly, you go, oh, wow, I totally forgot the S on the end of that plural word.
And that specific moment of realization, that little oh moment, that is exactly where the deepest learning happens. You are correcting yourself. You're becoming your own private teacher.
That is a really powerful concept. It puts all the control back in the learner's hands. Okay, so let's move to step 4. This one is very strategic. We know we want to speak. We have accepted that we are going to make messy mistakes. How do we actually construct our sentences in real time to minimize the struggle?
Step 4 is harnessing the power of short sentences.
Why short, though? I want to sound sophisticated. I want long, beautiful, flowing paragraphs. I want to sound like I'm giving a brilliant TED Talk.
And you will definitely get there eventually. But right now, at the building stage, long sentences are a massive trap. We have to talk about cognitive load.
Cognitive load. Define that for us.
Your brain has a very limited amount of working memory at any given second. If you try to speak and construct a sentence with 3 different clauses, a relative pronoun, and a complex perfect continuous verb tense, you are basically trying to juggle 10 bowling balls at once. You are going to drop them.
And when you drop them, you freeze.
Exactly. Short sentences, on the other hand, are safe. They are punchy. They're incredibly easy to control. The sun is bright. I am happy. She is running.
But doesn't it sound a bit robotic? Like, like,
Right.
cat.
At the very beginning, maybe it does a little bit. But it is so much better to be slightly robotic, but factually correct and easily understood, than to be a tangled, panicking mess of confusion. And this really leads perfectly into the concept of building blocks, or what linguists call chunks.
Chunks. Tell us about chunking. I love this concept.
Instead of learning isolated single words from a vocabulary list like sun and bright, and the verb is, you learn the entire phrase as one single unit. The sun is bright. You memorize that entire string of words as one block.
Ah, I see. So when you want to describe the weather, you aren't pausing to conjugate the verb to be in your head to match the singular noun. You just know that the sun is bright is a pre-made block you can just grab and throw into the conversation.
Correct. It creates immediate mental associations. You don't have to do the grammar math in real time while the other person is staring at you. It drastically reduces your cognitive load.
So the practical drill here would just be massive repetition.
Yes, out loud repetition.
Yeah.
Take 5 to 10 short, extremely useful phrases, things you actually need. I need a coffee. Where is the bathroom? It is a really nice day. Say them aloud to yourself multiple times a day until they become completely automatic.
Until they just roll off the tongue without a single conscious thought, like a reflex when the doctor taps your knee.
It's exactly like a reflex. Once those basic bricks are totally solid, then you can start cementing them together into a beautiful wall. But you cannot build the wall if you don't have solid bricks first.
I really love that bricklayer analogy. You have to build the foundation first, otherwise the whole house collapses. Okay, moving right along to step 5. I have to say, this is one of my personal favorites because it really appeals to the frustrated actor inside of me.
Step 5 is copy and repeat, or as I like to call it, the imitation game.
The imitation game. So we were basically talking about becoming a parrot.
A very smart strategic parrot, yes.
So,
We often call this shadowing or mimicry. And the secret here is that it is not just about repeating the raw words. It is deeply about acting. You need to copy the actual character of the speaker you are listening to.
So if I'm listening to a very loud, enthusiastic American podcaster, I should physically try to act like a loud, enthusiastic American podcaster.
Yes, you need to copy their
Prosody.
prosody is the underlying music of the language. It's the rhythm, the specific melody, the speed of delivery, and exactly where the pitch of the voice goes up and down. English has a very specific, bouncy music to it. It is what we call a stress-timed language. If you try to speak English with the flat melody of your native language, say French or Japanese, which use different timing, it can actually be quite hard for a native English speaker to understand you, even if your grammar and vocabulary are 100% perfect.
That is exactly what creates the barrier of a strong accent, right? It's not just how you form your mouth to pronounce the letter R or the letter L, it's the entire song you are singing.
Exactly. So step 5 is all about tuning your mouth to that specific frequency. Here is how you do it. Listen to a very short audio clip, maybe just one single sentence from a Netflix movie or a YouTube video. Pause the video, and then repeat that sentence exactly how the actor said it. Try to match their exact speed. Try to match the exact breath they took. Notice where their voice spikes up at the end of a question.
It really feels like giving a performance.
It is a performance, and honestly, that makes it a lot of fun. It takes the heavy pressure off of being yourself in a foreign language and lets you just play a role, When you put on a mask and play a character, you are often way less shy.
And we can absolutely use that recording trick we talked about earlier here too, right?
Definitely. The feedback loop is crucial here. Listen to the original movie clip. Record yourself on your phone mimicking it. Then listen to both of them side by side.
Ooh, the side-by-side comparison. I warn you all, that is brutal the first few times, but it is so incredibly effective.
It really bridges the painful gap between how you think you sound, because let's face it, inside our own heads, we all sound like Hollywood stars, and how you actually sound to the outside world.
It's the ultimate reality check.
It is. But it builds that vital muscle memory in your jaw and tongue. It completely removes the complex calculation from speaking. You aren't desperately trying to build a sentence from scratch using a textbook formula. You are just replaying a beautiful melody you've already learned.
Which, if we think about it, is exactly how we learned our very first language as toddlers. My little niece just repeats absolutely everything she hears on television, matching the intonation perfectly. She sounds exactly like a little cartoon character half the time.
And that is exactly why she is acquiring the language so incredibly fast. She isn't sitting there analyzing verb conjugations. She's just copying the music.
I really have to pause and ask the listeners again here. Have you ever tried recording your own voice while shadowing? I know. It can be super scary. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice on tape, but it works wonders. And if you enjoy these kinds of deep dives into practical techniques, please consider subscribing. We have so much more to share with you.
We really do, so hit subscribe.
Okay, we are getting into some truly advanced territory now. Step 6. I know this is considered the holy grail for so many learners out there.
Step 6 is thinking in English.
The internal switch.
This is undoubtedly the most difficult step on the list, but it is also by far the most rewarding. It is all about completely stopping the internal translation process.
Let's talk about why translation is actually bad. Because I think a lot of beginners rely on translation as a necessary safety crutch.
Translation creates massive lag. It creates latency in the conversation. If you are walking down the street and you see a table and your brain automatically thinks the word for table in your native language and then has to run an equation to equal the English word table, that is an entire extra cognitive step. It takes precious time. It consumes massive brain power. You want to look at the physical object and have the English word table appear in your mind instantly, with no middleman.
So how do we actually train our brains to do this? Because thoughts are completely automatic, right? It feels nearly impossible to control what language pops into your head.
You have to start extremely small. Very, very small. Do not try to debate complex politics or philosophy in your head in English on day one. Start with simple physical objects. In fact, let's do it right now. Look around the room you are in.
Okay, I'm looking. I see a microphone. I see a big window. I see my coffee cup.
Great. You didn't pause to translate those things from another language. You just instantly labeled them in English. I want learners to do that all day long. When you walk down the street, just fire off words in your head. Car, tree, dog, bus.
Just constantly labeling the world, almost like a toddler pointing at things in a supermarket.
Exactly. Then, once you are comfortable with objects, move to very simple internal needs.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh, I'm really thirsty, I should probably get some water in your native language, try to force the thought directly in English. I need water.
Tell me I need water.
Very direct.
Direct. No mental middleman slowing you down.
And then, once you master those short thoughts, You can finally graduate to the full monologue.
Yes, the internal monologue. It is very much like the narrator step we talked about earlier, but completely silent. You run a continuous internal commentary on your life. I'm walking to the train station. Oh no, the train is late again. I am so annoyed.
I am annoyed. That is a very, very useful phrase for commuting. Highly useful. But here is a truly great tip for making this habit stick. Make it a strict rule based on a daily trigger.
A trigger. How does that work?
Yes, you link the habit of thinking in English to an action you do every day automatically. For example, every single time you make a cup of coffee in the morning, you force yourself to think about the entire process strictly in English.
Yeah.
Or every time you open your front door or brush your teeth.
You are building the live language habit. I really like tying it to a specific physical trigger because otherwise you just forget to do it. The trigger reminds your brain, okay, switch the language channel over to English now.
Exactly. And over time, as you practice this, that mental switch becomes faster and faster until eventually, one day, you realize you don't even notice you have switched. You are just existing in English. That is true fluency.
That really is the dream. Okay, wow, we have arrived at the final step, step 7. We have actively listened to podcasts, we've spoken to ourselves in bathroom mirrors, we have mumbled phrases on the street, we have trained our brains to think in English. Now what?
Now comes step 7. Practice in the real world.
Leaving the safety of the comfort zone.
Yes. Eventually, you cannot hide in your bedroom forever. You have to talk to humans. Real, entirely unpredictable, fast-talking human beings.
It's like the final boss fight at the end of the video game level.
It really is the boss fight. But it absolutely doesn't have to be a terrifying battle. You just need to find safe, supportive spaces to practice. Find friends who already speak English. Look for online language partners.
And luckily, in our digital age, this is easier than it has ever been in human history.
It truly is. There are dozens of amazing apps specifically built for language exchange where you can easily find native speakers who want to learn your native language, and you just help each other out in a totally low-stakes environment. You can join online communities, Discord servers, forums where people share audio voice notes instead of text.
The ultimate goal here is to just take everything, to apply the previous 6 steps in a live, unpredictable environment.
Exactly. It is about taking those specific chunks you memorized, that physical volume and confidence you built up in the mirror, that sharp listening skill you honed with the podcasts, and bringing it all together in one dynamic, real-time human interaction.
And most importantly, realizing that the world does not actually end if you use the wrong verb tense. The barista still hands you your coffee.
Precisely. The ultimate goal of language is human connection, not grammatical perfection.
Wow. We have really covered a massive amount of ground today. I feel like we have built a really comprehensive, practical roadmap to take someone from being completely frozen with fear to flowing with real confidence. Let's do a very quick recap for everyone listening, just to really lock these concepts into memory. What are the 7 steps?
Okay, rapid fire summary. Step 1, listen actively. Fill your brain's tank with the actual music and form of the language.
Speak daily. Use the solo method. Narrate your life. Break the silence every single day.
Embrace your mistakes. They are your best friends and your only true feedback mechanism.
Use short sentences. Build your foundation with solid chunks and bricks, not giant, complicated cathedral stones.
Copy and shadow. Mimic the prosody and the character of native speakers.
Think in English. Turn off the translation part of your brain using daily triggers. And finally, step 7, communicate with others. Get out there and use it in the real world.
I honestly feel more fluent just listening to you read that list.
It is a really powerful, proven roadmap if you actually follow it.
It really is. And I think the underlying crucial theme of this entire deep dive, if I had picked just one word, is consistency.
Absolutely. Consistency is the magic secret sauce. Doing a little bit every single day is infinitely better and will yield so much more progress than trying to run a massive study marathon once a month. It is entirely about keeping that linguistic muscle engaged and firing.
And keeping a really positive, forgiving attitude toward yourself.
Yes, you have to be kind to yourself. Learning a second or third language as an adult is incredibly hard. It is a long journey. You have to celebrate the small wins. If you managed to order a coffee today and you didn't freeze up in a panic, that is a massive victory.
It is a huge victory. So here is our final challenge to you listening right now. Pick one. Just pick one of these 7 tips. Maybe it is the narrator technique while you make dinner tonight. Maybe it is active listening on your commute tomorrow. Maybe it is just looking at your kitchen table right now and actively thinking the word table.
Just start today. Please do not wait for the perfect time to start speaking, because I promise you there is no perfect time.
Start speaking right now. Honestly, even if it is just to your cat.
Exactly. The cat definitely won't judge your grammar mistakes.
Well, unless it is a very, very snobby cat.
True, cats can be a little judgmental.
Well, thank you so much for listening to your English podcast today. We really hope this deep dive helps you melt that ice and finally stop the freeze.
It was an absolute pleasure sharing this with you all. Keep practicing. See you next time.